Welcome, everyone, to the Senior Savvy Podcast. This is where we help you navigate the slippery slide into the senior world, no matter your age. If you're a senior, family of a senior, caretaker, or anyone who touches senior lives, you need this information. Today we have Mike Morrow with Seniors Helping Seniors. He started this company to help seniors and their families with home health care. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So Mike, what made you interested in starting Seniors Helping Seniors?
Well, that's a loaded question. It's not something I thought I'd be doing because I've had a couple different careers in my life. This is actually my third career. I spent 25 years in the food business, up and down the coast as director of purchasing. And then I spent about 8 or 9 years as a financial advisor. And during the time I was a financial advisor, that's probably when I really realized that I liked helping people. I had a elderly territory, and we sold mutual funds, variable annuities, life insurance. Did a lot of long-term care at the time. So long-term care was probably my education into people aging. And also, I did take care of my parents. My first client, believe it or not, was when I was in college. And it was a quadriplegic young man who one of the school deans came to me and asked me if I wanted a job, which I certainly said yes. And it was a matter of taking this gentleman to different classes. He mirrored my background with taking business courses. And we became very good friends. Actually, the gentleman now is very involved with the disability program in South Carolina. And even though we don't stay in touch, I don't think he realizes what type of effect he had on my life. And then as we gotten older, and then I went back to the grocery business after the financial side, and I was working pretty hard, traveling back and forth to South Carolina. I was trying to sell the house here in Florida. My kids had grown. It was time, maybe we thought we'd move back home. And I went back to a small grocery distributor. And after a year and a half, I found out they weren't financially strong. So I told my wife, don't sell the house. That's back 7, 8 years ago when the housing market was really crashing. And at that time, my son was being deployed to Afghanistan. He's currently in the Army, still is. And my daughter was getting her master's in speech pathology, and she was also getting married. So we had a lot of things going on. I'm traveling back and forth every 2 weeks, and after a short period of time, I actually had a heart attack.
Oh my gosh!
So that was a little surprising because I've always been a very active A personality, but that set me back a little bit. I took a year and a half off, got out of the corporate world, and decided, what do I want to do? I was too young to retire, had too much energy, but at the same time, I had some very close experiences. So during that time of recovery, I was reading a lot of things about what type of franchise would I like to get into. I didn't want to get back in the corporate world. And I read about Seniors Helping Seniors coming back from San Antonio. My son was going to PA school at Fort St. Houston. And in flying back, there was an article, and I thought about it. It just kind of stuck with me for a couple of weeks. And I started researching it, started looking at the senior care. And Seniors Helping Seniors kind of fit what I wanted to do. And we'll get into what type of agency I am in a little bit, but it really fit my background. And wanting to help people and be able to have a business and grow it slowly over time fit my medical needs also. And then 2 years into that, as soon as I started, I had another issue. Now I got a pacemaker. So
wow,
it is kind of interesting when you're dealing with people that have some issues, whether it's medically or maybe they're becoming depressed or getting old and can't do what they used to do. I understand what that feels like. So it really, my background, I guess, kind of gets right into the meat of what we do.
So you resonate with the fact that you understand seniors need some help, but not constant help, but just something to keep them occupied, keep them happy, keep them going, keep their mind sharp. And this is part of what Seniors Helping Seniors is all about, correct?
Yeah, I like to say that we focus on the social side of aging. So as people get a little bit older, they can't do what they used to do. That doesn't mean they're not useful. They're still useful. They still need to lead a good life. And we're there to enhance their enjoyment and really focus on what they can do and try to say, how do we help you? So as we get into this next half hour, we'll talk about who's actually the client that we have. It's not just the person we're giving care to, but it's also the family. So how do we help out everybody? And that's the key to caregiving is the number one job of a caregiver is companionship and to be somebody that the other person enjoys being with. So both the caregiver and the care receiver equally benefit.
Nice. Very nice to know that. So what type of services does Seniors Helping Seniors provide?
That's always a loaded question because there's not 4 or 5 things that is always standard. We always sit down with the family and say, what do you need? Because we don't do the personal care side, and we'll get into the activities of daily living in a minute.
Okay.
So we're not home health aides. We're not certified nursing assistants or home health aides. We're actually other older people. All my caregivers are mature. They're a little bit older, typically range from 55 to 75. So we have the only intergenerational program that pairs up a senior wanting to give back to the community and also with a receiver who needs a little bit of help. So there we really try to match personalities.
Part of what you do is something I read on your website, that you do long distance check-ins. I found that to be kind of interesting because I don't understand the concept behind it. I would think that the family would call in and check. Is this something that you help them out if they are too busy or out of the country? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
The long distance check-in is just that. We don't have a centralized system nationwide for long distance check-ins, but I deal with a lot of family members that live out of state. And so if they want us to be their eyes and ears by going visiting the mom or simply calling the mom or dad, we can do that.
Okay.
So that's maybe our first time we're meeting the family, is that how do we help them? They're long distance. They say, we can't get in touch with our mom very often. Can we have somebody go by 2 or 3 times a week?
Nice.
Spend a little bit of time, and then we can report back as to what we're seeing with their parents or with their mom or dad.
So what is the difference? You brought this up. What is the difference between home care and home health care?
We can talk about this for hours. There's so much variety of home care out there that it's mind-boggling. The state of Florida does have different licenses, and I have a homemaker companion license. If you're a home health agency, that can be a huge thing. That can be some agencies really only work within the scope of Medicare or Medicaid.
Okay.
Some work with health insurance. Typically, when I think of home health care, I think of a doctor-prescribed plan of care for the home when maybe they finished up having a stroke and they still need to have physical therapy, occupational therapy. They could be going to a skilled facility, but they might get some part-time help at home for a period of time. You can do infusions. You might have an LPN or a nurse come see you on a pretty frequent basis. But the biggest difference is you're getting skilled care.
Okay.
Usually with the nurse's review of the plan, a licensed nurse practitioner, or an RN going out to see you. But that can be physical therapy, it can be occupational therapy, it can be speech therapy, it can be a number of things. It can be wound care, it can be administering medications. I don't do that.
Okay.
And home care by itself you can focus on different things. Home care typically is not the skilled care. Nurses aren't going out. But it's simply somebody coming in, helping out. Maybe it's a CNA or a home health aide, and they're helping you out with the activities of daily living. And there's typically about 5 of those. That's personal hygiene, for example. It could be dressing, eating, maintaining continence, and transferring mobility. So the typical home care person may go further with being a home health agency. They may strictly work with the activities of daily living as well as companion care. So it's a wide variety. But homemaker companion services is a lower level license. I can't do the hands-on care as far as toileting anybody or physically bathing. We can make sure we hand somebody a towel as they get in the shower, make sure they get in safe. Make sure we hand them the washcloth and the soap. But we can't physically bathe them. I can't physically toilet anybody. And we can't physically spoon feed anybody. So there's some things there that are out of our league. And same thing if somebody's immobile and you might have to use a Hoyer lift to get them out of bed.
Right.
That's something we don't get involved in.
Okay.
We are licensed, bonded, and insured, but not for that type of services.
So you keep you're more on the companion side, like you said.
Correct.
Okay. And I know that you do offer different services, and for example, you do yard work and home maintenance. Is that something part of Seniors Helping Seniors does throughout the country, or you yourself offer that?
Well, we list that. I don't do a whole lot in Florida because Florida is a terrible place to do yard work.
Yeah, that I can understand.
And after I had my heart attack, my doctor told me that yard work is the number one reason for heart attacks, especially with the older people. But we will do some yard work if if the lady, for example, you used to always see roses in her front yard, and she's a little depressed, and we're trying to get her out. Let's get her out gardening some. So yard work can mean a whole lot of stuff. We're not going to be cutting anybody's grass and trimming trees.
Okay.
But we could do some light gardening, maybe plant some herbs and help them out that way. And that's actually a good event that we can get people outside, particularly now that we're getting to the fall season.
Excellent. So you also do light housekeeping, and you do the escorted transportations to outings, doctor's appointments, I'm assuming, grocery shopping, things like that?
It can be a little bit of all of it.
Okay.
In fact, the most fun thing is when people get used to having some sort of help, because many times we're the first time people have any type of help coming to the house. And once we get them out and we get them to enjoy the company of somebody and get them more active, and maybe we're taking them to Target or to the supermarket or to maybe even Kohl's, go buy a pillow, then they're finding out they're really enjoying the time, and then they may go out to lunch and have lunch together. They can make a full day of it. And even around this time of year in Florida, you can go see the manatee coming up here in another couple of months. There's a lot of things, a lot of activities in Florida that people can go outside. The middle of the summer is kind of tougher.
Right.
But this time of year, we're starting to talk about what can we do with our clients to get them more active, whether it's just walking a little more down the street, or going shopping, doing some outings. Perfect time of the year for it.
I remember when I was my mom's caretaker, she loved being able to go out. She loved staying in and playing cards and things like that. But she became more animated being outside and being around other people and just seeing different things. And it always made me feel good that I was there to be able to help her to do that at that time. So I know how some people, they say that they want to stay at home, but I agree with you that once you start getting them out more and more, then they become more relaxed with being out in the public again. And to me, that's an excellent thing.
And a lot of times when people begin to be homebound, much of it has to be that maybe the lady doesn't want to be seen on a walker or using a transport chair or a wheelchair. Vanity still plays a part of our lives, and we don't want to be seen as being old. So that means a lot of people become hermits. They stay inside more.
Right.
And we have to understand that. So we need to encourage them to make that step outside, because there's a whole new world maybe they haven't participated in the last year or 2 years. So that's very important to get people out, because depression and loneliness go hand in hand. And when you become depressed, it also affects your health. And we want to reverse that, get people more active, less depressed, and enjoy their lives.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic start to becoming a better person, no matter what age you are, is to be able to get rid of that depression and start reliving your life again. And with the help of people, you can do it. You just have to take that first step. So what areas does your business cover?
We cover a pretty wide area of East Tampa. Now, we have an area I work in and an area I bought my franchise for, because we are franchise. But for the most part, I have Brandon south of the rest of Hillsborough County. I do have some business in Temple Terrace, a little bit in South Tampa, actually growing in South Tampa quite a bit. But I'm the only one in the area. We do have another franchisee that's just starting up in the northern Hillsborough County. So him and I are talking as to how we're going to work together. Oh,
nice. Nice. Very nice. All right. So you're keeping busy. I've seen you at a couple of places, and you are constantly on your phone and talking to people. How are you relaxing?
Oh, that's a tough one, because this is a never-ending job. And when you're a small organization like myself, my cell phone is my company phone. So I always have to pick it up. I know I get a ton of telemarketing calls like everybody else does. But in this business, I don't know who's calling. It can be typically my client is the eldest daughter that calls her from out of state saying, we were visiting my mom and dad and think they need some help now. So if I see the caller ID in Ohio or Michigan or St. Louis, wherever it may be, I need to pick it up.
Right. So is it 24/7 that you're doing this, or do you actually take time off to turn off your phone and focus on yourself?
No, I don't turn the phone off.
Wow.
Because it's just too much responsibility. If a caregiver needs me at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock or even 12 o'clock, because we have some people we do 24/7 with. And there have been times where maybe there's been a miscommunication on a shift arrival and somebody's running late. Well, they need to call somebody. When they need to call me, let me know so I can relay the information to the next caregiver.
Right.
But that rarely happens. But we have had some people call up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Usually a client that might have some dementia, maybe they had a great day, they're so excited about it, it kept them up all night. And that's happened once or twice. But I may not answer all the calls. I may wait till the next day, but it's just very important to be accessible. Because since being such a small company, I know my clients very personally and know the caregivers very, very well. So they know they can call me at any time if they have an issue. And that makes the job less stressful. So you say, how do I relax? I relax by having a good team.
Right, that's what I was going to say. I'm sure that's what helps you out the most.
Yeah, because whenever they get on a text, and they text each other quite often about different clients that maybe they deal with multiple clients that they all know. If there's an issue, usually they're pretty good. They get everything solved, and they send me a note.
Oh, nice.
If somebody says, I have a doctor's appointment that came up last minute, this is on Friday night, for Saturday morning, we're supposed to be somewhere, they'll already have somebody else covering them. And so it's like a great group of ladies.
So how many do you have with you now?
I only have about 20.
Wow, that is a group.
But it's very small when it comes to the home healthcare business. Some of these, the larger healthcare agencies, they might have 200, 250 caregivers. I don't want to be that type of caregiving company. You lose track of who they are. I like knowing who my caregivers are. I don't need to be big. I just want a medium-sized business. And really enjoy it and just make people's lives a lot better and not get complicated.
Okay, so do you feel that you have a very special niche, in my opinion, with seniors helping seniors?
Right.
Do you feel that the seniors that are out there that you are working with and your seniors are working with, do you feel that they are more relaxed and more comfortable having their own age around them to be with them?
Well, that's the whole idea of what we do. The concept of seniors helping seniors is to have that more mature person that actually has something in common with the person we're giving care to. And that way they can talk about, maybe it's Dean Martin or Sammy Davis Jr. or Elvis. They can play some of the songs from the older days, and they both know what they're talking about. And so that really makes a very warm and fuzzy feeling when you get to start relating to somebody. You have something common already. A lot of what I do is really matching personalities. So when I go do an interview with a potential client, we're always talking about, tell me about your mom or tell me about yourself. What do you like to do? What did you do when you were working? What did your husband do? How do you like to entertain yourself? Do you like to read? Do you like music? Do you like art? Because I want to make sure when we match up a caregiver, we're going to match somebody up that also likes reading, likes music, likes art. So there's something right off the bat they can start forming a relationship with. Because I have my clients not just for recovery periods or for short periods of times, but usually have them for longer periods of time. Because we might be the first time somebody needs help. They're years off from declining to the point they need a different type of level of care.
Right.
And so we want, it may be shorter hours initially, but they're getting to know us, they're getting to know what care is like. And it just gives them a different experience.
Excellent. So what type of qualifications do you look for when you're hiring?
Well, I do have an awful lot of people that have a lot of experience. I do have retired nurses and retired people in the medical field, but we don't hold ourselves out as that. What I look for is somebody who has the heart of a volunteer, who wants to give back. Maybe they're already retired, semi-retired, or not wanting too many hours, because this is always an up and down business. But somebody who really has the passion to help somebody. That's my number one requirement. If I ask them, why do you want to work for us? They say, I need 40, 50 hours a week because I need to make rent. That's not the type of caregiver I need, because I can't always fill their need for their own finances.
Right.
Because it goes up and down. You might have a client, and all of a sudden the client moves on to a different level of care, and we no longer can be there. They might have to work for several companies. So in my case, I'm looking at people that have flexibility, that can work the different shifts that we try to set somebody up with. So if a lady comes to me and she says, I like to do about 12, 16 hours a week, then we try to find them that client that's what they're looking for, is 12 to 16 hours, maybe 2 or 3 days, 4 hours each. And they really bond together. They really have a great time. Now, that business will probably expand over time, but at least we have somebody who's filling the needs of both people.
Right.
And that way, it's not a job. I've never had anybody not show up. I've never had anybody late. I've had somebody maybe 15 minutes late because they couldn't find a place. But you get a very dependable workforce when you're hiring people that are already retired. Their work habits were a lot different.
Right.
And their dependability is through the roof. I don't have hardly any caregiver turnover, which is very unusual in the industry. The industry is typically 80%. And I've had probably less than 6%. And I've been very fortunate. But at the same time, it's not that I have a ton of caregivers. The 20 have been with me. I did recently hire about 4 or 5 in the last month. But it's been very, very steady.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you not only go to homes, you also go to communities. You go to retirement communities. You go to assisted living,
yes.
memory care, places like that.
Absolutely, because just because you're in a assisted living facility, depending on the needs of the client, maybe we can make that experience even better. Because sometimes people get very frustrated if they've never had care before. And they go right from their home into an independent living or assisted living. Sometimes that can be a shock. So I always tell people sometimes we can help with the transition. So maybe we see somebody at home, get to know them pretty well, they get to like us. And then if they have to go to assisted living, then we may follow. And they still have somebody that they're very familiar with, somebody they enjoy the company. And then maybe we slowly have to back off the hours and transition them into assisted living. But I do have several different places we go into now. And a lot of it's because we need to assist, even though they have the facility there and the people there to help. Somebody has to make sure they eat. Somebody has to make sure the place is clean on a daily basis and keep them active. Again, we go back to the social side. Mm-hmm. Unless you put yourself out there to go down to where they're playing the piano and doing the activities, sometimes people have to struggle to get down there. We make sure they get there. So we can go to the facility and be there, be like the daughter coming in and visiting.
Right.
So we can do that several days a week or however often they need.
Okay. So what kind of advice do you have for someone who is looking for health care?
Talk to several people. Find out what's available. The problem is people, when they think of health care, they think of the home health care.
Right.
They think of what the doctor prescribes for you when you had a stroke or a heart attack or something. There's so much out there that you can have. It doesn't have to be so medically driven because we don't even wear uniforms. We wear just regular business casual clothes. We don't let people know that we're seniors helping seniors in the home. We're kind of private. A lot of people like that idea of keeping things very low key, keeping it private, not being seen as having hired help. You can have that. You can have the skilled care. You can have from A to Z, it's there. So if somebody needs to have that information, give me a call. We'll talk about probably what you might need.
Excellent. So what do you wish that you knew now that you wish you knew when you started out?
How difficult this is. It's not an easy business. I've been doing it 5 years. It's been growing incrementally every year, so it takes a while. And if I was to, but I'm very happy I didn't go the home health care route because that's even more complicated. I don't have a healthcare background, and so I would say that this fits the type of care I like giving. I like making a difference where we can see the difference, the comments I get back about them, enjoying the people that we matched them up with, having a blast, going out and do things, or the family saying my mother's doing so much better or my father's doing so much better now because there's somebody there that he can talk to.
Now, you're giving me little increments of the great things. Can you give us a story or two of some of the ones that stand out the most?
There's a lot of humorous stories. There's some sad stories.
Whichever.
I'll lead with the sad one first because we one of the first clients years ago we started dealing with. She was in assisted living, and we were taking her out occasionally to different functions around town, and she really enjoyed it. But her dementia progressed, and she got to the point that the hospice was called in, moved into the hospice house towards the very end, and the caregiver walked in, and she always looked up and says, "I don't know your name, but I know I like you." Oh. And that's a tear-jerking type of experience.
Oh, my gosh.
And we were there at the very end. And so that's the sadder side. And it does hurt us because we get to know these people very, very well. But on the brighter side, just this last week, we started with a client just a month ago. And after about 2 or 3 times of the caregiver and the client going out, they really started hitting it pretty well. Now they're actually taking trips. And when I look at what they're doing, because I get all the notes, when I see what they're doing and where they've been, I know they're having a blast. And the daughter's been extremely happy with the relationship. So that's what makes it fun, is when you say, it's working kind of like a picture book story. Is that somebody who wasn't getting out as much now is being much more active, much more engaging, and plus we're giving the family member a break.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
And yesterday we, for the first time we took out a new client, took her to a doctor appointment. Again, it's nothing too complex. She's perfectly healthy. She's a very vibrant, mature lady. And but she's going to give up her car. And the caregiver called me last night. She goes, I think I'd like to work with her. And then I talked to the lady, and she says, I really like the lady that you sent over. So right there we have the match. And so they're going to start in a couple of weeks, not a whole lot of stuff, just maybe 4 hours a day, 1 day a week initially, and see how things go.
That's really nice. I may have to talk to you later. It sounds like it's a blast. It really does.
It is a lot of fun. I tell people this is, particularly when it's your second or third career and you're enjoying yourself during retirement, it's not a job anymore. You have to have a passion for helping, and it has to come from the heart. When I first started hiring people, I went to churches, and I said, I just want to talk to pastors. I want to know who in your organization, who in your church might be wanting to still do volunteer work but get paid for it. Because that's actually almost what we're doing. We're helping people out in some unusual ways. It's not just about having somebody come in and sit. It's about engaging people, getting them active.
See, I like that. I like that. So your company, Seniors Helping Seniors, you said it's a franchise, so it is nationwide, right?
Not quite nationwide. We are in, I think it's 34 states. We have 200 territories.
Wow.
And it was formed in 1998, and so we've been around for, 20 years now. I've only been around for the 5. But in Florida, I think we're probably the largest homemaker companion agency. I think we have 14 offices in Florida. And some of the agencies have decided to go past homemaker companion. We do now have 3 home health agencies in Florida, probably 4 coming up really soon. And maybe that's something I consider down the road, but I'm having too much of a good time with the homemaker companion side.
I bet so. It sounds like the best part of it. Well, is there anything that you would like to add that we didn't discuss?
Do we have another hour?
Please feel free.
Well, let's get back to the activities of daily living. That's the key thing, because a lot of people assume my mom might need help bathing. But I always have to ask the question, what exactly does she need? Well, maybe she says, well, we're scared to let her bathe alone. Okay, well, does she need hands-on? Does she need to be physically bathed? No, she's fine with that, but we're just scared that she's by herself. Okay, well, we can still help with that because we can sit outside the bathtub or the shower, make sure they're safe, make sure they have a towel right there, and make sure we can evaluate. In fact, every time we go in somebody's house, we evaluate the situation. Do they need grab bars? Do they have throw rugs that need to be removed? Are there any trip hazards? So sometimes people think they need more than they really need initially. And that's where we just kind of sit down and say, what do you really need? How much help do you really need? We've worked with people that were cancer survivors that needed to gain weight. And I had people that owned restaurants, for example. And so we put together all kinds of crazy food, peanut butter milkshakes with protein. So
okay.
and transferring mobility. If as long as somebody can transfer from the bed to the wheelchair to the couch, and they're still getting around okay, maybe they just don't, and they walk very limited, perhaps with a walker, that's okay. We can still work with people like that. Most of my clients, I say half of them have some form of dementia, and we can handle people up until they start losing the continence and start having bigger issues. And that may be years, and that's people. Dementia is something that's kind of strange. It's you never know how long it's going to be.
Right.
It may be 3 years, 15 years before dementia really shows some terrible consequences. So it's just a matter of what the families are looking for and how best we can help them. And if nothing else, at least I can be a resource. We may not help everybody, but I'll talk to anybody.
Well, that's good to know. I am glad to hear that. So would you please do me a favor and give out your information?
Well, you can always go to the Helping Seniors website and drill down to locations, and you have to put in just Tampa, and I'd pop up. We have 3 of us pop up. Or you can go directly to my website, which is www.seniorcaretampa.
Okay.
www.seniorcaretampa. Or Seniors Helping Seniors /East Tampa. And my phone number is area code 813-610-2262. Again, that's my cell phone, so usually I have it on all the time. If I don't call you back right away, I'll be answering the phone. So I'm pretty accessible.
Okay. Excellent.
And we have a home office up in, we're based out of Reading, Pennsylvania. That home office, if somebody's out of state listening, that's area code 610-898-0090.
Excellent. Thank you. And we will make sure that all of that is on as well. So, Mike, thank you so much. I think that's about all the time we have for now. And I really appreciate you being on the show. We'd love to have you back again.
Well, thank you.
Again, this information from the show will be uploaded onto our Facebook page, Senior Savvy Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or would like information on a specific subject, please email me at seniorsavvypodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget all episodes are uploaded to Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Music. Please check out our next episode next Tuesday. And remember, if you're going to have a senior moment, make sure it's a senior savvy moment. Until next time, be safe and be happy.